Quilt Monkey is brought to you by Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects.
Hi and welcome to Quilt Monkey. On today's show I'm going to show you how to turn your 10-inch squares, layer cake squares, origami squares, 10 squares, whatever you want to call them, they're your pre-cut 10-inch squares of fabric, and how we can turn those into half square triangle units, getting 8 half square triangles from just 2 10-inch squares. So it's a really quick and easy way to get a lot of half square triangles, and it's a great way to use up those layer cakes to make a fast and fun baby quilt or whatever else you want to make. So you're going to take 2 10-inch squares, and for my squares I'm using a coloured square, and then I'm cutting some just plain background fabric, some white fabric, so that way you get kind of twice as many from your layer cake. And also I quite like the fact that I'm going to have a lot of squares, but they're not going to be like super busy, so they're all going to have that white background fabric just to balance them out a little bit, so it's not completely crazy. So you want to draw a line diagonally, corner to corner, on both sides, and then sew with a nice scant 1/4 inch seam either side of those lines, so you get lines going all the way across in both directions. Once you've done that, you can cut. So just cut on the line that you've marked in both directions. And then you're going to cut across the middle as well. So just line it up so it's nice and straight. Make sure that you use a marked line on your ruler with the edge of your squares, and you're going right across the middle, so where your marked and sewn lines meet, so they make that little cross in the middle. And also in the other direction as well. And as if by magic, you have 8 half square triangle units. I mean, it's so quick. Once you've done that, you need to just trim them so that they're nice and squared up and all super even. So whether you use a specific ruler, I always use the Quilt in a Day square it up rulers. I have a couple of them. So a big one that is kind of the one that I use most of the time, regardless of how big or small my triangles are. And then the smaller one, which is kind of easier for travelling, if you want to travel with your square it up ruler. And my favourite way to do this is just to not open it out, just line up the size that I want on the stitching line. So I'm doing them at 4.5, because from my 10-inch squares I can get 4.5 inch half square triangle units. So line up the marked line on there, and then just either side trim off that excess. And you won't have a lot, there's just going to be a little tiny bit, but then your half square triangles are nice and neat and tidy. You can press them open. Then if you really dislike your little dog ear bits, you can then trim those off as well. I find if my half square triangle units are kind of this size or bigger, so anything above 4 inches, then it doesn't make that much difference when my quilt is pieced. I won't have that much bulk. If they're much smaller pieces, if they're only tiny little units, then I would definitely trim those off. But it just depends on how they affect you. So then you can sew that together in whatever way you like. You can just make a crazy half square triangle frenzy, or you can make a block like this one that I'm doing here. So I've also cut some different size pieces. So there I've got a large 8.5 inch square, and I also cut a 4.5 inch square from this fab leopard print fabric. All of these prints are from Esoterra by Caterina Roccella for Art Gallery Fabrics, and they're dinosaur themed. But dinosaur themed fabric you tend to think of little boy fabric, or quite kid-like or childlike. But these, well, I'm making this for myself, so either I am a bit of a child or they're actually quite grown up. And I just really like this tropical palm print, kind of a jungle print. I really, really like that one. And I'm a bit of a sucker for anything that's animal print. So I've taken my half square triangle units and I've sewn 4 together in 2 blocks like so, and then 3 with the 4.5 inch plain square, add the 8.5 inch pattern square there, sew those together, and you've got a nice 16 inch block that you can use to add them together to make a quilt. But it's also a really nice kind of throw pillow size for your couch. Brighten up your couch in the new year. So that is it. I hope that you have enjoyed this new and completely exciting method for making so many half square triangles from just a layer cake. And I shall see you next time on Quilt Monkey.